When you approach the platform by air, you realize that it really looks like a bird. Berkut means golden eagle, but the rig looks more like a fat pigeon, which sat down to rest on the surface of the Sea of Okhotsk. But no real birds are to be found here. It's too far from the coast. It takes 40 minutes by helicopter to reach the rig from the nearest town. By sea, 8 hours. Ships typically deliver equipment and provisions to the platform, and personnel for the next shift arrive by air. The offshore oil drilling platform Berkut, located 15 miles from Sakhalin Island on the shelf in the Sea of Okhotsk, is one of the largest in the world. It's a huge 6-story, fully autonomous plant on giant reinforced concrete piles, which not only drills new wells, but also simultaneously extracts several thousand tons of oil from a huge depth every day. It's a real monster with an incredibly complex anatomy. When the fickle regional weather permits, of course. Berkut is built on a gravity-based structure. That is, unlike floating platforms, it stands firmly on a reinforced concrete foundation which is fixed to the seabed. The base alone weighs 160,000 tons. It was made in Russia, not far from Vladivostok, and towed to this place over 1,200 miles away. Essentially, it resembles an inverted stool. Once the hollow lower part of the base was flooded with water and the platform sat on the seabed, all that remained was to carefully place the upper part of the platform, with all the equipment in the living area, on the legs, sticking out above the surface of the water. By the way, note that on the middle section of the legs of this giant stool, there is a ring of concrete of a slightly different color. This is the so-called ice protection belt. The designers calculated that this section of the supports is approximately where the 6 feet of ice on the surface of the sea would hit. That's why the concrete there is of the highest quality. It's incredibly durable. Previously, on other similar platforms, such belts were made of steel. But it turned out that the ice often tore the metal sheets from the supports during strong winds or storms. Such an incident cannot happen here under any circumstances. The upper part of the platform was made in South Korea. It took several years to build a 6-story, high-tech, fully autonomous oil refining complex. The structure was crowned with a huge oil derrick like a Christmas tree topper. By the way, that was made in Russia, in Kaliningrad. It was delivered to South Korea by sea, then it was carefully installed on the top of the platform with the help of the world's only marine crane with a lifting capacity of 7,000 tons, which had to be rented specifically for the operation. Again, in order to compensate for vibrations during earthquakes, all the pipes and oil wells that go from the upper part of the platform to the lower one have joints here, which are covered with black reinforced rubber cuffs. These couplings allow the pipelines to shift at the connection points relative to their axis and thus provides a guarantee that they won't burst if something happens. This is just one of the many ways to protect equipment from unforeseen incidents. It functions day and night because it would take several dozen hours just to start it up again. But you can stop it in an instant. When this button is pressed, all the machines stop, all the oil wells are killed, the generators turn off, the circulation of gas and oil stops. In general, the platform completely freezes and goes into damage control mode. This protocol, by the way, is the same for all offshore production platforms, and it was written based on accidents that happened in the past. Right now, there are 237 people on the Berkut platform. In general, this figure fluctuates for the emergency shutdown button in the central control room. It's never been pressed. All the main parameters of the station's operation are constantly flowing into this room. From the dozens of graphs and jumping columns on these monitors, the operator draws a conclusion about the condition of the station, just like a doctor draws a conclusion about the condition of a patient's health by looking at his cardiogram. Since the staff working on the platform is an international one, all announcements are made in English. Only when the operator understands that a native Russian speaker is answering him can he switch to his native language. The diesel engines need checking. If the central control room is the brain of the platform, its heart is, of course, the drilling site. It's located at the very top, on the 6th story of the platform. Its lofty position in the structure comes despite the fact that the drill pipes in the drill itself, so to speak, drifters call it the bit, goes over a mile under the platform, and accordingly, deep into the seabed. In general, offshore drilling is one of the most difficult processes on Earth. Honestly, only space flights are more difficult. Well, this, I repeat, is if we simplify everything as much as possible. But if we go into a little more detail, the joystick controls the manipulator, which in turn pulls out or puts the drilling tool and pipes into the well. They are more or less looking for oil by touch. The Arkutun Dagi Reservoir, on which the Berkut platform is located, is one of the richest in the Far East. Nevertheless, it doesn't represent one huge oil bubble. It's a multitude of large and small cavities filled with hydrocarbons. Dozens of wells diverge from the platform in different directions underground, sometimes going 3 or even 4 miles to one side. Wells, like the mouth of a mosquito, foot by foot, look for oil-filled cavities so that they can then begin to suck it out from them and bring it to the surface. It turns out that under Berkut there's a whole cluster of wells, and every few months another one is added to the list. Anyone who has tried to drill into a concrete wall at home knows that it's best to use drills with serious tips. Here it's about the same. This is how more and more sections of long pipe are screwed on top of the chisel, which rotates the steel worm at high speeds. The whole construction bites deeper into the rock, going further and further until the drillers find and form a well. The position of the tool is monitored every second by the drilling foreman from this room. It's called the doghouse by those who work there. Its walls are made of armored, heat-resistant glass and are reinforced with a steel grill on top. Oil or gas can escape from the well under enormous pressure, and these protective layers can save the lives of those who are inside. However, this is already a last line of defense. One level below the drilling site, there is a unit that will not, in principle, allow any such incidents to occur. Generally speaking, there aren't any unimportant machines on the rig, but this one is really one of the most important. It's called the Preventor, and the wells that have already been drilled and handed over to operators are considered to be calm and more or less safe. The fact is, the pressure in them is already understood, the density and composition of the hydrocarbons is known, and they usually don't present any surprises. After all that is established, and by the fact that sea lions regularly swim on by, they appear to be successful in that. But back to the spoils. The safety and operation of the wells through which the oil enters the platform is ensured by equalizing the pressure inflicted on it. The thing is, the pressure on the surface is normal, atmospheric, but underground, inside the oil cavities, it's enormous because miles of earth and water rest on it, pressing on the pocket from above with their weight. And so, to keep the oil from gushing from the well in a giant fountain, you just need to apply from the surface the exact same amount of pressure that's felt inside the cavity. That is, equalize it. Special compressors and hydraulic valves are responsible for this.